Welcome to Fighting Stats, the ultimate channel for MMA fans who love statistics and betting breakdowns. I'm your host, Art C, and I'm here to get you ready for the upcoming UFC fights. In this series, I'll be watching tape and providing my real-time analysis on how I think the fights are going to go. I'll be watching for fighters' strengths, weaknesses, tendencies, and overall strategies, pairing that with Fighting Stats' exclusive UFC stats not available anywhere else to give you a prediction on how I think the fights are going to go and ultimately who's going to win. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Welcome to Fighting Stats. Welcome back to Fighting Stats. I'm your host, Art C, and today we are breaking down the UFC 297 fight between Yohan Lainesse and Mr. Sam Patterson. We have finished all of the fight tape on Yohan Lainesse, and we have finished the fight tape on Sam Patterson. So now it is time for our Fighting Stats main event breakdown. We are going to go deep into the stats of both fighters, find out what we can find out. We're going to recap what we saw in the fight tape, and then we're going to get down to the nitty-gritty. We're going to put in the numbers. We're going to find out where the best bets lie. You're not going to want to miss it. So let's get right into it. Let's start with the stats here. We have Yohan Lainesse here in the blue side, blue fighter, and Sam Patterson on the right side there. Lainesse going 1-2 so far in the UFC, 100% of hhis wins by decision, 50% of his losses by TKO, 50% by submission. On the Sam Patterson side, similar thing, 0-1 in the UFC so far, 100% of his losses by TKO. One thing that I wanted to note here is the height discrepancy. Sam Patterson 6'4", 6'3"-ish, Yohan Lainesse 6'1". Also worth noting is that all of Sam Patterson's previous fights have been at 155. Yohan Lainesse at 170. A very big 170-pounder. Sam Patterson moving up in weight for this fight at 155. We will touch on what that means a little bit later. So getting started here at Yohan Lainesse. Offensive striking, 89% of his strikes have come from a distance, 6% from the clinch, and 5% on the ground. And in terms of his target breakdown, does like to mix it up here. 59% of the target towards the head, 15% to the body, and 25% to the leg. Head striking accuracy, not the greatest, 29% head strike accuracy, 70% body strike accuracy, not bad, and then not great, 61% leg strike accuracy. Average strikes thrown by round, not crazy high output, but 27 strikes thrown in round 1, 23 strikes thrown in round 2, and 22 in round 3. And then the average strikes landed by round by target does drop off there. Head going 4, 5, and 3 in rounds 1, 2, and 3, and then 5, 4, 1 for legs as well. So we don't need to go deep into the numbers here, but I did want to look at Lainesse does have one knockdown against Gabe Green there. That was in round number 2. I thought he came in round number 1, but he does have a knockdown there. Doesn't a bunch of leg kicks there as well. So we'll go into the striking there as well. On the defensive side, Lainesse, 85% of his strikes against have come from a distance, 7% from the clinch, and 8% on the ground. Against his target against, 67% of his strikes landed against were to the head, 17% to the body, and 16% to the leg. Height striking defense, honestly not bad at 26%, good defense, 64% to the body, and 78% to the leg. Strikes absorbed by round a little bit high, 37 in round 1, 53 in round 2, and 31 in round 3, and then average strikes landed or absorbed by round up high as well. Has never been a knockdown in his UFC career. What else do we see? Significant strike, 41%. We talked about that. On the Sam Patterson side, again, these sample sizes are going to be very small, especially for Sam Patterson. He got knocked out in his UFC debut there in round number 1, so he threw 7 strikes, landed 2 of them. I'm not going to go into the breakdown. 55% of the strikes were towards the head, and 43%, that's worth noting, target towards the leg, did not go to the body in that fight there. And then defensively, he has Not been knocked down, but 87% against strikes against were on the ground. 13% were at a distance. That's basically because he absorbed 15 strikes there, most of them on the ground after he got knocked down, and then 20% significant strikes thrown. So yeah, worth noting, they didn't count it as a knockdown. We did go back and watch that. Asmus caught the leg kick, threw an overhand right, but didn't land it, dropping Patterson down to the ground, and then that's where he got finished there. So going into the grappling report again, you got to be aware that the sample size is a little bit smaller, but we will go into the grappling here so far and what we've seen. Lainesse, offensive grappling here. He's attempted 6 takedowns in his UFC career, only successful on 2 of them, for a total of 114 control seconds. Most of that coming against Gabe Green there, 17 seconds against Darian Weeks, but 97 seconds against Gabe Green. And then we talked about the ground strikes accuracy. Takedowns attempted by round 1, 0.7 takedowns attempted, 2 attempted in round 2, with only 0.3 being successful in round 1 and 0.5 being successful in round 2. Defensive grappling, Lainesse has seen 10 takedown attempts against, only 2 of them were successful. Both of them, or sorry, one was against Mike Mallet, obviously a very good guy there, and then one was against Darian Weeks in round 2. 1 sub attempt against. Sam Patterson did not have any grappling, did not go down to the ground there. Fighting stats time breakdown here. We see that 79% of Lainesse's time spent in the cage was standing, 4% in the clinch, and 14% on the ground. When he is on the ground, 33% of that time was in half guard, 35% of that time was in side control, 25% was in north-south, and 8% in full guard. When he was on the bottom, 89% of that time was in half guard, 8% in north-south, and 3% in back mount. Worth noting there. So Patterson, fight time, 54% of his fight time was standing, 32% was on the ground, 13% in the clinch there. So we're going to go into the striking tendencies matchups, and it will shed light in terms of how I see this matchup going. Yohan Lainesse, we did talk about his long jab. He does have a long step-in jab that he uses. He throws that 23% of the time. 16% of the time he's throwing that 2. We counted a 2, but it's more of like an overhand right that he likes to throw. He really steps into that 16% of the time. And then he is looking at the rear low kick at 9% of the time and lead low kick at 7% of the time. 6% of the time he's throwing that lead hook or check hook there. On the Patterson side, 19% of his strikes were jabs, 16% of them were 1-2, and then he went to the rear high kick 9% of the time, and the rear low kick 9% of the time as well. So that gives you a taste of sort of what they are doing striking wise. So I did want to go into how I thought the fight would play out. So just to recap what we saw for the Lainesse side, he is a power striker. He likes to throw this lunging jab. He steps into it, very long jab, decent power on it. He likes to throw this big overhand right that he steps into. We talked about it. Imagine punching a punching machine as hard as you can. That looks like Lainesse every time he throws that right hand. We did see some interviews. Lainesse talked about making his punches a little bit straighter, so it looks like he is aware of it and he is working on it there. On the ground, Lainesse was sort of a mixed bag. We've seen him get submitted by Mike Malott, but Mike Malott is going to be one of the top prospects coming out of Canada, so I really throw that fight away. And then we have seen him sort of scramble, give up his back a couple of times, but does have a ton of power and a lot of strength. So a lot of his get-ups are just really strength-based, but he is serviceable on the ground, not the greatest, not the worst as well. So on the Sam Patterson side, okay, so I mentioned that he used to fight at 155. He's moving up to 170. And the reason that is very important is that Sam Patterson is 6'3", fighting at 155 pounds. If you go back and watch the Sam Patterson side, he really uses his range, and he likes to stand at kicking range. Because he has such long legs, long limbs, he stands at kicking range where his opponent cannot reach him. He throws the right leg kick, or the right kick, He goes to the body, he goes high, he goes legs, but really he really only throws that right leg. I only counted 1 or 2 left leg kicks there. Again, these stats here are really just for UFC in terms of the earlier stats there. The other stats that we're breaking down go into the regional stuff as well, as we do go back and watch the regional tape. So bigger sample size there. Again, Patterson really only throwing that right leg kick there. The reason I bring it up is, again, he stands at kicking range. He likes to click there. He throws very low volume where he's standing at range, and because he has the distance, he forces his opponents to have to close the distance and come to him. He doesn't really push the pace too much, and again, he's able to dictate it because of his range. Now, when he's moving up to weight in his weight class there, Lainesse has a little bit of size on him as well. Again, I think Lainesse is a pretty big 170, and you have Patterson moving up to 170 from 155, spending most of his time there. So his advantages that he has in terms of his reach and size are not applicable now at 170. Lainesse does throw some big power shots. He does close distance well with the jab and overhand right. The biggest thing that we noticed with Sam Patterson is he keeps his head up on sort of a silver platter. He doesn't really move it off the center line. He relies on tall man defense, and he's able to get away with it. Like, he's fought some guys where he's had 8-inch reach, 9-inch reach, 10-inch reach, where the guys are really looking up to strike to him, and he can just lean back and be out of the way. But otherwise, if somebody like a hard puncher like Lainesse that throws that overhand right or that has that long jab, I think he can touch Sam Patterson all day. And again, Patterson not really used to the power at 155. He's fought a lot of these smaller guys on the smaller end at 155 as well. All right, so I pulled up my handy dandy bankroll tracker. What I like to do is I like to break down the possible outcomes in the fight, assign a percentage to them, and it helps me determine where the actual value is and where I think the money line should be. So I've put Yohan Lainesse here in the blue corner. Sam Patterson here is going to be in the red corner. And so we'll start on the blue corner. Lainesse to win by TKO. What do we think here? I think Lainesse at 170 has a ton of power in his hands. He throws that left hook, that right hook. He really likes the overhand right. Now, I did see an interview where he is addressing the overhand right. I know he really lunges into it. He did talk about making his punches a little bit straighter. I think if he does that, the power will translate. He's going to throw them right down the pipe and land. Again, Patterson's moving up from 155, and I'm going to state that again. Lainesse has tons of power at 170. He's a very big 170 fighter already, and Patterson's career has been at 155. Now he's moving up to 170. I think the power is going to be a lot for Lainesse. We did see Patterson get knocked out by 155 in his last fight there. He had a 10-inch reach advantage, and he was still able to get brought down to the ground and knocked out. So Lainesse, I'm going to say, is to win by TKO. Honestly, probably about 30-35%. Could be a little bit higher, just the way that Sam Patterson uses the tall man defense, and he's not going to have that much of a height and reach advantage in this fight. So we're going to leave it at 35%. To win by submission, maybe 10%. I just don't think Lainesse is going to use or look to grapple. I just don't think he needs to. So he'll probably keep it standing. Sam Patterson's not going to push the pace either. Not looking to proactively grapple there as well. Both guys, when they are engaged with the grappling, they will defensively grapple, all that stuff. But I think they want to keep the fight on the feet. I think most of the fight will be on the feet. So I don't think that's the opportunities for the sub will be there. So maybe even 5%, but we'll leave it at 10% there. Moving on to Lainesse to win by decision. Now I think it's possible. Okay, so let's go back to the history of Lainesse here. So we watched the Evan Cutts fight, and we saw him really slowing down in round one there in the Kevin Cut fight, actually going to the body and winning by body punches there. In the Burlington's fight there, he won quickly by left hook in Dana White Contender Series, so no real cardio concerns there. Gabe Green, he won that first round against Gabe Green, in my opinion. He started to really slow down there in the beginning of round two. By the end of round two, Gabe Green really taking over, pushing a pace and finishing Lainesse by punches in round two. I attribute it more to the cardio issues from Lainesse than really Gabe Green controlling him and looking great. Now, in between fights here, so there's about 5 months in between fights, I think he addresses the cardio. He knows he lost that fight because of cardio. Coming out the Darian Weeks fight, his cardio looks a lot better in that fight. He goes 3 rounds and actually wins a split decision against Darian Weeks. So worth noting, I know the cardio issues are there, and I think he's addressing them, and they're sort of on display in the Darian Weeks fight. So not really a concern. I think it's possible he wins the decision. That's why I bring it up. The Mike Malott fight, I think Mike Malott's going to be top 10 in division, one of the future stars. I don't really take anything away from them in that fight. It's just Mike Malott doing Mike Malott things. So going back to our tracker here, winning by decision, I definitely think it's possible. I think if he doesn't put him out there by KO, he could win by decision, just having bigger moments, things like that. So moving on to the Sam Patterson side, win by TKO. Again, he's not a heavy hitter. You know, we did see him win a couple of fights by TKO. We'll go through them. He's 10-2, 4 wins by TKO there. And I wanted to touch base on them. So we saw the Philip Silva fight there, right? He landed one punch. He stepped back into southpaw, threw the check right hook, knocked out Silva there in round 1. I think he caught him there, you know, decent right hook there, landed there. So then the next time he wins by TKO there was against Maiev. Now, if you go back and watch that, he landed the rear uppercut. Rocks Maiev. He goes down to the ground. Maiev able to recover, get back up, and then the rest of the fight, how it finished, was more of a standing TKO. The referee stopped that. I thought a little bit early, as Maiev covering up against the fence, blocking some punches, and then the referee stopped in front and said the fight is over. So the reason I bring this up, and the reason I say this, is that I don't think Sam Patterson has a ton of power, especially at 155. Now he's moving up to 170. These guys are a lot bigger. I don't know if his weight's going to translate to power. I think Lainesse has a chin. I've seen him take some big shots. I think the way that he got knocked out was more cardio than anything. So I think Sam Patterson to win by KO, I think it's live, maybe 10-15%, if I'm being honest. We'll leave it at 15% for now. To win by submission, again, I don't think Lainesse engages in the grappling. And so we saw Sam Patterson, he really, one of his defenses for the takedowns is to go for the guillotine. He has those long limbs, so he can really lock in the Darce choke, lock in the front guillotine. He likes this like modified guillotine where he gets that elbow high, and then he traps the head in there. He's always going for chokes when he does get down to the ground. That's part of his takedown defense. But if Lainesse isn't shooting for takedowns, I don't think he uses the front choke there, unless, you know, Lainesse is winning the stand-up and Patterson elects to proactively grapple. I think it's possible there as well. We're going to put 5-10% as well. And then winning by decision, I think Patterson is more likely to win by decision just because I don't think he has a ton of power in his hands. I think if he does win a decision, it's going to be from outside low kicks. We saw Sam Patterson, he only really kicks with his right leg. Whether it's against southpaw or orthodox. Whether against orthodox, he likes the rear low kick. He'll throw that rear low kick over and over again. When he fights southpaw, he doesn't switch it up. He still throws that rear low kick, and he just throws it against the southpaw. Southpaw, a lot easier to check that rear low kick. But Lainesse being in orthodox, I suspect that he will throw the rear low kick quite often. He does like to stand in kicking range, throw a variety of different kicks, again, mostly with the right leg. If he does switch to southpaw briefly, it's going to be the left leg, but I only counted 1 or 2 left leg kicks there. Most of the time it's going to be right leg. So he's going to have to stick on the outside. He's going to have to play Matador for 15 minutes, avoid the jabs of Lainesse, avoid the right hands of Lainesse. However, in the fight tape, I did see Patterson get hit a bunch of times with overhand rights, and that was at 155. Again, that's why I say he has to fight a perfect game plan, play the Matador, or Lainesse has to gas, you know, within the first round or two and not find the TKO, and then Patterson takes over in rounds 2 and 3. So I think he can win a decision. We're going to leave it at about 15% to win by decision as well. Honestly, I think that's off. We're going to take, so we're 5% over here. I'm going to take 5% off of something. Maybe by TKO. Honestly, well, okay, so maybe by submission here. We're going to move submission down to 5%. Okay, so to recap then, Lainesse to win by TKO, 35%. I think it's about 35%, odds of 186 or better. Odds to win by submission, 10%. Honestly, if I put 5% for Patterson, I'm going to put 5% from Lainesse. We're going to move that 5% on sub to... We'll put it on decision. 1 in 4 times on decision. I think Lainesse should be about 65%. So TKO 35%, 5% sub, and 25% decision for a total money line of 65%, minus 186 or better. On the Sam Patterson side, 15% to win by TKO, 5% to win by submission, 15% to win by decision for a total money line of 35% plus 186 or better. I think that sounds right. I like the Lainesse side. Don't remember where the odds are, so we're going to go over to fightodds.io. We're going to pull it up here. UFC 297, Lainesse, minus 145. Looks like money's coming in on the Lainesse side as well, so we might have to play that. So opened up minus 125, briefly shut down to minus 160, minus 140, and then settled right now at minus 145. The comeback on Patterson right now is plus 125. Similar line movements there. So we're going to put in a minus 145 into our tracker, tell us what it says, and then 125 on the other side there. So at 8th Kelly criterion, at minus 145 is the current odds. We cap it around minus 186. It's telling us a 1.8% bet or 1.8 units on Yohan Lainesse. I tend to agree. I'm going to play the money line. We're going to figure out how much to play it for. Again, 8th Kelly recommends 1.8 units. We'll probably stick to that. And then when props come out, we'll see what the prop numbers are there. But I do like the Lainesse side. Again, I think the moving up for Sam Patterson is going to be an issue. Him traveling over to Canada. Lainesse is the hometown fighter there. A lot of things going against Sam Patterson, I think, here. Sam Patterson's going to have to fight perfect to get him there. And if Lainesse really addresses the cardio issues, which he can, and I think if he straightens out the overhand right and doesn't load up on the overhand right, then I think the fight is his to win. I don't think Sam Patterson has a ton of advantages really anywhere. We saw Sam Patterson on the ground, on bottom and not really do anything. We saw him on the top and not really do anything. Sam Patterson's best opportunity here is going to be the rear low kick, the right low kick, and if Lainesse doesn't check them or deal with them, I think that could be an issue, or it could be a Lainesse cardio thing that we talked about as well. But those are the only real ways I see Patterson winning the fight. Obviously, he can land a couple of lucky punches, but he's not really a puncher. I know he's popping the jab, and it's more to keep the distance for the jab, but he's not really heavy-handed, I would say. And again, the size advantage for Lainesse is going to be quite big. So I think Lainesse is going to control him. If it does get to the clinch, if it gets to the ground, I think the size is going to make a difference there as well. So all these different things I see as advantages for Lainesse. I like that side. We're going to play that side, and we'll post our bets to our Patreon, patreon.com/fightingstats. When the bets or the prop lines do come out, we'll tell you exactly what we played and for how much, and we'll go from there. So I hope you enjoyed the breakdown. Let me know below how we did. If you have any questions, or maybe I'm missing something or not considering something, help me out. If I'm missing something, let me know. Help each other out. So again, my name is Art C. This is Fighting Stats. I hope you enjoyed the show. Thanks for watching. All right, guys, well, that is it for today. Thank you very much for watching. If you like this sort of content, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe. You'll get notified anytime we put out new content. And remember, here at Fighting Stats, I lead a team of expert data scientists. We are working around the clock to produce these exclusive UFC stats, not available anywhere else. We do our tape study. We pair them with our stats. We put out our best bets. We put our best bets to patreon.com/fightingstats. That's where we put all our analysis, all of our stats. Join patreon.com/fightingstats to get exclusive access. Recently, we just hit $82,000. Yes, that's right. $82,000 parlay on one fight. We used our fighting stats to get there, and we won a massive payday. Our Patreon members had exclusive access to that, so they shared in the profits there. So don't miss out. Make sure you subscribe today. Again, my name is Art C. This is Fighting Stats. Thanks for watching.